Hello! Today, we're going to tell you a story that looks like a spin-off about Kurama from Naruto. And even if you're indifferent to anime, you'd better get your handkerchief ready. This story will touch anyone. It all starts with a small flashback. A cute little fox is playing with a frog and almost falls off a cliff. It's rescued by a boy, who immediately slips on his own. The little fox tries to help him, but the boy falls to his death. The little fox cries over his savior, tears dripping on the wound caused by its own claws. Several centuries pass. A group of fox spirits in human form gather for some kind of ritual. A long-haired guy named Baishi-san is not allowed to be here, sent to do the mundane tasks of others. The gathering is opened by a giant white fox with 9 tails, who transforms into an old man in front of all the students. The elder tells him that there's an elixir that grants foxes immortality, and is contained in ordinary humans. Only young foxes can collect the elixir, and that is their main trial. However, it is necessary for the human to give it voluntarily. In addition, it's important what color the substance will be. For example, a black elixir is good for nothing. The elder announces that this month the most valuable white elixir will be harvested, which can be obtained once every 1,000 years. If done right, one can turn into a 9-tailed fox, the strongest of all. The mentor invites the young foxes to touch the large crystal and receive instructions on how to find the elixir. The students stand in a circle, but their energy is not enough to make the crystal work. Rejected apprentice Bai touches the magic crystal, and it finally comes to life. Everyone gets their instructions, but the cipher on Bai's hand turns out to be incomplete. It only says that the bearer of this elixir has long ears. After the meeting, the elder informs Bai that he has little chance of completing the task. 500 years ago, the elder found him on the side of the road. He has no impressive bloodline. Bai is a common half-breed. Now he has only 2 choices: to accomplish the impossible, to obtain the elixir and become immortal, or to return to his original form. But Bai is adamant in his determination. He'll try his luck anyway. Then the elder gives him a magic blade to fight demons and blesses him. Embracing his teacher, Bai steals a bismuth crystal from his mentor's pocket. Inside it dwells a spirit helper. Bai enters the human world, and the first thing he does is eat chicken at the local diner. A guy is walking down the street, showing passerbyers a portrait of a man. He approaches Bai too. He asks if he's seen the stranger in the drawing, but the fox is so engrossed in his meal that he does not even notice. He is, however, brought back to reality by a voice coming out of the crystal. The spirit tells him that the man with the elixir is somewhere nearby. Bai rushes to find his human, but he gets lost. A group of men in funny hats with long ears are scurrying around. Suddenly, the fox is distracted by a performance from a street shaman. He cuts up enchanting paintings and feeds sick children with magic blood that drips from the canvases. Bai is frightened that he might be discovered and hastily runs away. Suddenly, he crashes into the guy with the portrait and falls into the donkey pen. Everything around him begins to collapse, and Bai miraculously escapes injury. But then the donkey that belongs to the portrait guy escapes, crashes into Bai and carries him away. The owner tries to catch up to them, and on his way receives an unusual gift from the street shaman. Finally, after a long chase, the guys find themselves in the woods. The stranger in the cap demands that Bai return his runaway donkey, but Bai merely waves him off. The fox is annoyed by his new acquaintance, but after the crystal hints at the elixir inside of him, Bai suddenly becomes compliant and friendly. The new acquaintance tells Bai that the donkey was entrusted to him by his grandmother, and now he's looking for his brother Dao Zhang to pass the animal on to him. The brother tried to pass the civil service exam but failed and disappeared. Now he's going to take the same exam in hopes of meeting his brother. Bai lies and says that he's going to go take the exam as well. Soon the student goes to sleep. Bai briefly takes out his weapon and raises it over the young man, but suddenly the elder assistant appears nearby. The assistant explains that there's no point in taking the elixir this way, even if it turns out to be white. One must first place the man in a helpless situation, help him, and become a savior. And only by gaining his trust can you get what you want. Bai asks for help in finding the donkey, and in the morning he pleases his new friend with his discovery. He introduces himself as Wang Zijin, and overjoyed, agrees to take the exam together. After a few hours, they reach a mysterious settlement that's shrouded in fog. There, they wander into a school where many students are preparing for the state exam. The local principal lets the guys stay the night. At night, Zijin wakes up to a loud squawking sound. In the hallway, he sees a frog leaving strange golden droplets behind itself. Suddenly, someone beckons him, and near a small river, the boy sees the principal. The man offers to look in the water when suddenly, Zijin emerges from the water and sees that the teacher has turned into a giant monster frog and all the students have been bewitched. The teacher tries to swallow Wang, but Bai rushes to his aid. Together, they fiercely fight the terrible monster, but it's impossible to defeat it. The best they can do is distract it. In the end, the friends manage to get a little time to escape. Next comes another challenge, the fight against the army of frog minions. Barely, the young men manage to break free, and at the very last moment, the monster appears close to them again. Bai decides to sacrifice himself and allows himself to be swallowed. Zijin flees in terror. However, it soon turns out that it was all just a farce. The headmaster is a werewolf, and he was just helping Bai gain the trust of the man. But the plan goes awry when Zijin returns to rescue his friend and injures the monster's tongue with fire. The frog tries to suck in the student as well, but accidentally swallows the torch instead. Because of the burn, Bai partially reverts to his original appearance. Zijin runs up to him and sees fox ears and a tail. Just in time, the elder's assistant appears behind Zijin and puts the young man to sleep. Bai, the werewolf servant, and the assistant sit on the deck of the boat. The chief's right-hand man says that they urgently need to find out what color the elixir that Zijin carries is. To do this, Bai must take the student to the nearest town. The others will take it from there. The werewolf and the assistant hide in the river to move the boat, and Zijin wakes up. Bai confesses to his acquaintance that he's a shape-shifting fox and has come to repay his debt for saving him 500 years ago. The young man is delighted with the story because he's always loved tales of mythical creatures. He gives Bai his grandmother's medicine and helps cure his wounds. Bai and Zijin sail on a boat for many days. They tell each other about their lives. The fox shows his friend the crystal that speaks to him, and the student shares his worries about his brother and exams. Gradually, they grow closer. Finally, they arrive in the city of Jiangkang. Just as Bai offers his friend a walk, the messenger boy calls Zijin somewhere and tells him that he's expected there. The guys enter a brothel, and in the owner of the brothel, Bai recognizes the elder's right-hand man in disguise. Zijin is dragged to a distant room, and the fox and the assistant remain outside. The assistant explains that he's made an arrangement with a ghost girl who can travel between worlds and see what color the elixir is inside of people. Zijin meets a girl of incredible beauty, Ying Lian. She tries to seduce him, but he holds back his romantic impulses because he forbids himself intimacy before marriage. Zijin fusses and tries to leave. When he turns his back on the ghost, she tries to see the elixir inside, but a spell cast by the shaman prevents her. No matter how many times Ying Lian tries, the protection doesn't come off. Eventually, she begins to cry out in despair, and Zijin decides that he is to blame. The guy promises that he'll pass the exam and be sure to marry the girl, but in the meantime, he cannot touch her. Instead, the boy starts telling Ying Lian various stories, and they spend several hours together talking. When Zijin finally falls asleep at the book, the girl leaves the room and tells the fox that she couldn't see anything. Later, the elder's assistant punishes Ying Lian. It turns out that he possesses a lotus that holds the ghost's soul. She could only free herself from imprisonment if she succeeded in her task.
若不是我还要用你破釜取丹，现在就可以毁了你。
Bai and Zijin make their way to the examination site. The test begins early in the morning and is conducted very strictly. They sit in a room with other students for several hours. Zijin diligently doing assignments and Bai eating grilled chicken. But suddenly the spirit of Ying Lian appears before him. She offers the fox a deal. The girl says that this room is inhabited by an evil spirit, which will lure the soul from Zijin's body in a few moments. This will be the perfect moment to get the elixir painlessly. And for the information he receives, Bai will have to return the lotus flower to her so that she can save herself. The fox sees that his friend's body has already been taken over by a treacherous ghost. Not realizing that he has become intangible, Zijin goes looking for his brother and suddenly finds him. But Dao turns out to be a very evil spirit that resides here. Bai rushes to the aid of Zijin's spirit. He tries to stop his friend, but he doesn't want to leave his brother. And Dao Zhang immediately enchants them. Zijin falls into the black abyss of the netherworld. Bai understands that it's dangerous to follow him, but he jumps after his friend anyway. In the netherworld, the ghost of Dao Zhang continues to kill his own brother while other spirits torment Bai. But the fox has a secret weapon, a magic crystal. It shows Dao Zhang what his past was like, his beloved family, his preparations for the exams, his belief in a better future. Suddenly, light returns to Dao's soul, and he's freed from the shackles of evil. But Bai's crystal has used up too much energy. It explodes from the strain, and the whole other world melts away. Before he disappears, his brother only has time to tell Zijin to be careful. Bai and Zijin return to the real world. After the exam, the young man tells the fox that he's grateful to him for saving him and offers to take the elixir of his soul. Bai is shocked. He couldn't imagine that his friend had any idea about that. But worst of all, Zijin doesn't seem to realize that he would have to die to do so. The only thing Zijin asks beforehand is to free Yinglian. Then the fox tells his friend that the girl is an orphan who was sold to the brothel long ago. Out of desperation, she committed suicide and took possession of someone else's body. To maintain her persona, Yinglian ate people's hearts and drank their blood. Only those who truly love would help her soul to be free. But Zijin is not frightened by this story. He goes to the girl with wedding gifts and asks for her hand in marriage. She refuses, at first, saying their natures are too different. Then the man confesses his feelings and assures her that her past is totally irrelevant and she will always feel loved by his side. Yinglian is touched by his words and decides to take a chance. On their way, Yinglian and Zijin are stopped by Bai. The girl tells her companion that the fox just wants to take advantage of him and orders him not to approach his friend. Bai doesn't even have time to respond. The ghost pounces on him and a fight ensues. Zijin tries to stop his beloved and shouts that he's willing to give up his elixir willingly. Then the girl finally reveals to him the truth about the sacrifice he would have to make. She draws her blade over the fox's body, but suddenly another blade rips through her own stomach. It turns out that the ghost was attacked by the frog werewolf from behind. Zijin runs off with his beloved and sits with her on the lakeshore. She's almost unconscious, and she thanks the young man for saving her with sincere care. Her body can no longer be saved. She disappears right out of Zijin's arms, leaving him sobbing all alone. A few moments later, Bai shows up on the shore. Zijin tells him that he's long known of his plans, but he hoped at the last moment that their friendship was real. In a fit of despair, he draws his weapon and almost rips his stomach open, but the fox stops him just in time. He repents that he should not have lied and set Zijin up for danger, and sacrifices himself. Bai wakes up at home. The elder introduces him to the shaman, who's been watching him in the human world all this time. Then the elder shows the young man memories from his past life. 500 years ago, he was the very fox that the little boy saved. After shedding tears over a child, Bai planted a white elixir inside. Now, the boy was reborn as Zijin. It turns out that the whole point of his existence has always been to sacrifice himself, and the young man's fate is already sealed. Later, Bai meets Zijin in the forest. Bai says that he doesn't expect forgiveness from him, as he lied to him for so long. The fox turns and leaves, but his friend stops him. Zijin assures Bai that he's prepared to sacrifice himself and find at least some meaning in his life, even if that meaning is to help Bai become an immortal good fox. Bai drags the dead friend into the woods, but suddenly this procedure is seen by another Bai. It turns out that the first young man was the elder's right-hand man, who had taken the guise of Bai. The assistant tells him that the elixir was useless. It is black. But even if it weren't, the white elixir he would have taken for himself. The men fight, and the young man almost manages to take over the villain, when he suddenly transforms into a giant six-tailed fox. Bai is no match for a foe of this caliber, so he soon falls to the ground, drained and mortally wounded. The young man lies next to his dead friend and remembers their happy moments together. He accidentally touches the elixir ball with his finger. With a few swift moves, Bai defeats the traitor. He tears off one of his tails and begins to strangle him, but at the last second he remembers Zijin's sacrifice and his words about being a good fox. Bai stops. Miraculously, Zijin also survives. He returns to his grandmother and learns of an excellent exam result, but decides to give up his dream of a career as an official to take care of his family. One day, The young man goes for a walk and notices a frightened young fox in the grass. Zijin looks at it and feels the familiar look in its eyes. It turns out that after being reborn as a nine-tailed fox, Bai asked the heavens to take away his immortality in exchange for his friend's life, having turned into an ordinary fox as he had done 500 years before. He continued to live on Earth, and he probably couldn't even dream that he would spend most of that life with his beloved friend after all. Leave a comment down below if you think you and your pet have met in past lives too. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This way you'll get even more fascinating stories.